Okay. All right. Looks like we are live. Yay. All right. So, hey. Thank you so much for joining me live today. It is an incredible honor for me to be here with you. And I want you to know that I'm feeling a little bit anxious, but I am here and I'm thankful that you are here. It's because of you why we're able to go live today. So if you are joining me live, please let me know in the chat where you're coming from or where you are joining from. And if you're on the replay, please do also let me know where you're joining from, and I'll be able to go back and check. Now, as I said, I'm a little bit anxious, and doing something for the first time, I get anxious, and it's because I care so much. So today I've got a story for you, and I trust that there will be something in it for you. If you are here, whether you're live or on the replay, there is something with your name written on it, as I love to say when I engage live with people. So take what is yours and leave the rest. So I'm going to be talking about where I am, why I'm here, and what happened when I said yes to the call of the unknown. So if you see me at some points checking my notes, please bear with me. I have my notes and I'm going to be looking down and looking at it from time to time. So let's get started with where I am, why I'm here, and what happened when I said yes to the call of the unknown. So I am coming to you live from Taichung, Taiwan. And, as I was preparing to share this story, I checked in with my husband about some of the things because it wasn't just my decision, it was a joint decision. So let me say that. Let me take it to you or give it to you from that perspective. So where were we? In 2023, we were in a life that we had built over 10 years in Florida. We had, you could say, a comfortable life. We had a home that we owned. We were able to travel and live quite comfortably. But our lives had become what I would say boring, maybe stagnant. And we were getting a sense from God or the universe that some things needed to shift. So what was happening is I was doing real estate investing, and we had an Airbnb that I was managing. We were expanding it. We had another property under contract. My husband had been in a job for 5 years that things had taken a turn, not in a good direction. He had shifted departments and things got even worse. And so by January 2023, he had decided to take a leave of absence to get a sense of what to do next. And with that in mind, 3 months later, so that was January, April, he made a decision that he wouldn't return to the job. So he quit and he started job hunting. And the property that we had under contract fell through. So we had a property that we were hoping that we would get. It was a 5-apartment property. And, we were thinking of all the things that we were going to do with that. That deal fell through. And this was April. And with that happening and my husband making the decision not to return to the job, we started to look at how our lives were, how things were changing in our lives. 4 months later, this was August, my husband had put out lots of resumes, had applied for many jobs, had done lots of interviews, no job offer. By this point, it had been 8 months since he had had a paycheck. And I don't know if you understand what I'm going to say to you, but whatever savings we had dwindled. we're at this point, using credit cards to help cover some of our monthly expenses. We were way overextended. And I looked at it. This was beginning of August. I looked at our situation. I assessed it. And I said to myself, my husband is doing his best. He's, trying so many different ways to get a position. Nothing was turning. I said, I probably can find a position in another industry that would cover us, but I thought we needed to move to another country. So I suggested that we could move to Mexico, and my husband was absolutely not hearing it. He was not open to Mexico at all. As a matter of fact, he wasn't even open to leaving the US at that time. That was the beginning of August. Anyway, it was just a conversation at that point, but I knew in my heart, and he knew too, something needed to shift, but it wasn't Mexico. And toward the end of August, he and I had another conversation, and he was open to teaching in Asia, right? So he and I met as teachers in Asia, in South Korea in particular, back in the early 2000s. So kind of gives you a sense of that. And if you want to know more, I think I share that in the first video, starting from scratch, over 40. So you can go back and check that. So where I am now this is the end of August, and he's open to Asia, but we didn't know exactly where. And I did some research, and Taiwan popped up as a country that supports families. So we were not just, individuals. We were already a couple. My older son was planning to join us. It supports teachers over 40, and the benefits are great. And so when I started doing the research, I looked into a city that would be a little cooler, because we wanted to move to someplace warm. But I like a little cooler. And so we chose this particular city for the fact that it's cool. But the positions didn't come up until, I should say, we applied in September, and he got the job offer for this city in November. And by this time, November, it was around Thanksgiving in the US when the job offer came. And we moved here at the end of December 2023. So we got here, I think, on the 31st of December 2023. So that takes us to where we are now. All right. So, and what is beautiful about being here in Taiwan is it's Asia with an island feel. And I'm an island girl, so I feel right at home here in Taiwan. I'm going to just take a quick peek if there's anything that I'm not able to see anything. All right, so I'm just going to keep going, and toward the end, I will answer any questions and take a look at your comments. All right, so what fears or doubts came up before the move? So when I asked my husband this question, he said he was worried that he wouldn't be able to communicate because he didn't have any Mandarin. He didn't speak Mandarin. He also was worried about not having a car. For me, I was less concerned about the language barrier and not having a car, but I was concerned about finding food that I could eat and finding healthcare to suit my needs. Because when I lived in Florida, I had a nutrition response therapist that I would see her every 2 weeks. I also ate gluten-free food, right? So I was concerned about that. And I also saw the dentist every 3 months. So I was wondering how that would work. I was worried about eating the wrong food and what that might do to me and how I was going to manage if I didn't have the right health care. I also, the other thing that came up was I dreaded the thought of managing properties from so far away. So now I'm checking my notes, right? So let me kind of answer the next part of it. So what did I feel? What did it feel like to follow the whisper? We both found that as soon as we agreed to say yes, the ways opened up. We had initially planned to sell the homes that we have in Florida, but eventually we decided to rent them, and we found the perfect property manager to manage the properties for us. And when we started to follow the whisper, there was a feeling of relief from me. Um, I found a nonprofit company that could help us to negotiate our credit card debt. I think I mentioned that we had started to live off our credit cards. We had about $40,000 in credit card debt, and it felt like most of what we had that was coming in was going toward paying this credit card every month. And something that I noticed was that we were paying like 10 different bills every month, and that really added up. And so when I found this particular program, it helped us because we were able to pay one bill. They cut off thousands of dollars off of the interest when they negotiated the debt for us. And so instead of paying 10 bills, we've got one bill and we're saving money. So that felt like a huge relief. We were also able to find a personal mailbox that allows our mail to be forwarded to a mailbox. And that's huge too. Let me see. There was a coordinator assigned to my husband when he agreed to teach here. And that coordinator is an angel, still is. 18 months later, he still is an angel to us because he arranged everything. He was able to, before we left Florida, he had started to look for the right home for us, right? He started searching, and he would get back to us to let us know how it was going. He arranged the car to pick us up from the airport. They came with a banner so we would know, with our names on it. He arranged to take us to buy groceries for the very first time, and to everything that we needed to set up our apartment for the first time here. He arranged it. So everything was, I would say, he was like our everything. We didn't need to know Mandarin. I didn't have the language myself. I know a few words 18 months later, but I still don't know much. But this coordinator became like that. He became everything: the translator, the negotiator. He negotiated with the landlord for the apartment that we live in. He took us to the stores, showed us the ropes, so to speak, to help us get started. And so it's incredible what happens when you're willing to follow the whisper. All right. So another question that I have is, what did you have to release to step into this? So we both had to release being in control of everything and trusting that God would take care of everything, right? Here we were very comfortable in the life that we had in a country where the language was the language we had and everything was what we knew. But here we had to give up that control and trust God to be in control. We had to release being comfortable. That's another piece. You see me checking my notes here. We had to release being comfortable to step outside our comfort zone and be uncomfortable. That was another piece. We also had to release the fear of things not working out and ask ourselves, what if things could work out? What if they could be better than we had ever experienced them before? We also had to release the familiar to step into the unfamiliar. All right. I hope that what I'm sharing, is allowing something to come up for you. And I'm going to check in the chat as I move forward in the story to see what's coming up for you. So please feel free to share. So now the question for me is, how am I transforming in this chapter? How are we transforming? Well, we both feel like we've grown and become a lot better. My husband stretched himself to complete his full teaching certification, his full teaching license the first year that we arrived, which was very stressful. But I agreed to offer as much support as possible to help him to complete that program. And what's happened is we have grown as a couple. Like, this is something that we're doing together. So we've grown as individuals and we're also growing as a couple, where, I'm doing my thing and he's doing his thing. We agreed that this was something that we were both going to embark on together, and that I was going to help as much as possible so that he would be successful. And that's been really, you could say, life-changing for us as a couple. Excuse me. We have also found community here with teachers and international students and other business owners. I now host a women's group here, which is something that I find truly inspiring to do. I hosted a women's group in Florida as well. So, I've just come and settled back into doing some of the stuff that I did before. I also was able to complete some certification programs, which I'm always learning. So that's very important for me. We enjoy the simplicity of life in the mountains. What I forgot to share was that, I celebrated a big birthday in 2024. And if you didn't, if you want to know more about that, please check out the video that I did on It's Not Too Late to Start Over, because I don't share my age that much, but I shared it in that video. So, I was coming up on a big birthday, and I had been watching a lady on a YouTube content creator in China. And she was living in the mountains and just enjoying the simplicity of life. And I watched her and I said, I could go for that. I could have a simpler life. And so we are enjoying the simplicity of life in the mountains here. We're enjoying not having a vehicle. My husband was worried about not having a car. Now he embraces not having a car. We're enjoying fewer bills. We don't have so many bills to pay. We have more savings. We have less stress. We have more peace. We enjoy more travel. There's more quality time for us as a couple. We take time out and we go away doing things together as a couple. There's more quality time with our family when we visit or when they visit. And we've had some family visit here too. And, it's like my husband said, there is a greater quality of life for the middle class. And he's an academic, so he talks more in terms of, how he sees it like that. In the US, you have to either be really, really, really rich to be able to enjoy a lot of life right now. And so here we are in another country, and you don't have to be really rich to enjoy life here, because we're surviving here. Well, we do have some income from real estate, but it's my husband's teaching job that's supporting, for the most part, our lifestyle here. And it's incredible, right? So I just wanted to give you that. What has Taiwan taught us about life? Taiwan people are very adaptable and very resilient. This is a place where I was concerned. I forgot to share this. I was concerned that being here, I know I researched and found out that they experience earthquakes, and I was worried about that. And I'll tell you, I was here April 24, when there was a major earthquake. And that 7.3 earthquake would have been devastating in many first world countries. It would have flattened tens of thousands of people would have died. And when I researched, there are earthquakes that occurred at that level, a 7.3, that caused huge amounts of deaths and destruction in New Zealand, for example, in Christchurch, New Zealand, and in other places, in Turkey and another country, I don't remember. Tens of thousands of people died. And you never want anybody to die, but I will say they had about 18 deaths in that earthquake, and there was about 1,000 people who were injured here. So I wanted to get back to that. But the way in which they handled it, it was something that there was an emergency response. They are prepared for disasters. They have strict building codes. There is so much, and people were so adaptable. The minute the earthquake ended, Joe's coordinator, my husband's coordinator, got in touch. Another teacher got in touch. There were people who were getting in touch to find out how I was doing, because he was already at school and he didn't even know the earthquake was happening. That's a whole nother story. I should probably share that in another video. But they're resilient and they're adaptable. And because they are used to earthquakes happening, they have a very strong disaster preparedness program. So now that I'm here, I would much prefer to be in this country where people are prepared for disasters and they know how to respond and they have a strong response, than to be in another place where they don't have earthquakes and they don't have a response. They don't have a strong response. So I think that's important to note. There is also a very strong emphasis here on community and social connection. So we had a pretty good community in Florida. Like I said, I was hosting a women's group and we had friends. But I can say to you for sure that we have created such strong bonds in a short time here. Last Christmas, we were here. We would have been here almost a year last Christmas, and we had 30 people. We hosted a Christmas party and 30 people showed up, and it was incredible. We get together, we go out all the time with others. We have gatherings. I have gatherings. I host gatherings. He has friends, and we have a great social life here. So there is a real strong emphasis on social connections, and people care and they want to be part of community with us. There's a great exposure to lots of different cultures and perspectives. Coming here, I've had the chance to meet people from South Africa, Swaziland, Belize, many parts of Africa, people from all over really that I wouldn't normally see in my life in Florida. And of course, there are people from the Philippines here, there are people from other parts of Asia, they're international students, they're teachers, they're business owners, there's all kinds of people. So just an opportunity for us to grow as we get to meet people from different cultures and share perspectives, we get to grow. Taiwanese people have a sense of optimism and possibility. So all of that, it's part of how I am in terms of my own values. And I love the fact that we are here and we get to feel like family. They give us space to feel like ourselves. We can be ourselves. And at the same time, we can feel connected. There's a real strong sense of that. Let's see. Another question for me is, what would I say to a woman over 40 who's afraid to start over? I would say that fear is going to come up. It's natural. It's normal. As human beings, we don't fear what's familiar. We fear what's unfamiliar. We fear the unknown. So I would say, feel the fear that's coming up and move through it. Know that you're growing. You're getting into unfamiliar territory, and it's going to work out okay. And when we're in fear, our minds usually go towards what if it doesn't work out? And I'm going to say to you, ask yourself the question, but what if it does? And what if it turns out even better than you imagined? All right, so I'm going to suggest that you feel free to ask any of your questions. Let me know in the chat, do you have your own Taiwan story? And what bold step are you, considering in your next chapter? Is there any place in your life right now where you're feeling called to say yes to the unknown? I'm going to be doing more of this, and it's my first time, so bear with me. Please do bear with me, because I don't even know where to look now to see your questions. But I trust that this has been of value. So there are some comments. Okay, let me see if I check. Okay, so from the Philippines, hello, 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 hello. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Keith. Thank you so much, Queenie. Thank you. So you guys, do you have any questions? Any comments? All right. All right. Okay, so I am there. I'm pretty much toward the end of this. So if you do have any questions, pop them in the chat and I'll be quick to respond to them. So I'm going to be doing a travel series in the next few weeks. So here I am in Taiwan, and it's great that I'm here to start this live. But in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be traveling. And in my travels, we're going to be doing Reinvention on the Road series. So I want you to bear with, join us, and we're going to have a great time with that. I may also do another one or two. If this works out, I may do another few lives over the next week before I travel. So please do stay tuned for that. So we are pretty much at the end, and I want to thank all of you for joining us on this one. And I want to say thank you to Casey, who's helping us with the chat and with the banners. And I want to say to you that even if you don't see the whole staircase, take the next step. Thank you so much for being here today. It's been my pleasure to be with you. And I trust that you gained some benefit from this. And I'm going to say it again. Take the next step, even if you don't see the whole staircase. Lots of love and blessings, and we'll see you on the next one.